Hello and welcome to the April installment of AAISP's Training Tuesday series. My name is Jen Gergen, Operations Manager, and I would like to introduce your host for today's session, Bob Perkins. Bob is the Chairman and Founder of AAISP and is a special guest host for us today, as Dion Mischler of Inside Sales by Design is our usual host and unable to attend today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you, Bob.
Thanks, Jen. I really appreciate being here, and it's always good when some of the hosts of the different webinars we do can't make it, because I just love to get on and chat with people. So it's great to be here. We're going to discuss a topic which is so critical to inside sales right now, and that has to do with recruiting and hiring. And let me share a statistic with you from our research, which we just completed, which, by the way, we will announce the full research at the Leadership Summit next week. We asked leaders of inside sales what are their most pressing issues and needs right now, and the recruiting and hiring, again, made the top two for the third year in a row. And it was second only behind training and development. So it's top of mind. In fact, I'll quote a friend of mine who runs a several hundred person inside sales organization at Oracle, and he told me last year, he said, Bob, he said, many years ago, I was consumed with quarter to quarter, hitting each quarters in terms of the quota. He goes, the last couple of years, I've been consumed with filling open slots. So what I believe we have here is sort of the perfect storm, and it is, we know that there is tremendous job opening and job growth within the inside sales market. We know the statistics out there that say in the year 2012 to 2020, we anticipate 700,000 to 800,000 net new jobs added to the inside sales profession. We have that. And then we have the increase of skill requirements, right? Not only do they have to talk good on the phone, right, but they got to be good pre-call researchers. They have to be good at social media. They have to be good at a virtual demonstration, and they have to be good at closing. And the same person at Oracle said, today's inside sales reps have to have all the, you use the word chops, all the skills of the very best field rep. So we have huge job growth, higher demand on skills. Our talent pool is just too small. So we're really fortunate today to have with us someone who is an expert in recruiting. He's going to share some great tidbits and some best practices and things that hopefully you can take back and use in one way or another. Justin Brown is the Director of Search for Memory Blue, and he oversees the company's third-party recruiting department. Now, Memory Blue as a company develops and finds top inside sales talent for high-tech companies. So he's a real expert in the area, and he's currently an officer also of the DC chapter of the AISP, and a very strong proponent of everything around inside sales. So, Justin, it's great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Bob, for the intro. And we're excited to see you next week at the summit. I think that'll be 2 times I've seen you in about a month. So we're really excited about that. I also want to thank Jen for the cold call last week asking me to do this. It falls right in line with my presentation today. And then it's a lot of the reason that I'm here. Even when you're technically connected with someone, it's never easy to make a call out of the blue and ask that person for a call to action. So great job from Jen. And as for everyone who joined, it's a pleasure to be here and to be active with the AAISP. I've gotten a ton out of this organization in terms of professional development. Again, we're going to be at the Leadership Summit next week with one of our managers, as well as the 2 co-founders of Memory Blue. So if you have any questions for me at all in terms of inside sales or inside sales recruiting, just don't hesitate to ask. I take my role in the association very seriously, and I can make myself available when need be. I work a job where my team and I have to take calls at 6 in the morning or 9 o'clock at night. As I'm sure you all know, the best sales reps aren't doing interviews with headhunters during work hours. They're focused on hitting their numbers. So I have no choice but to be on call basically around the clock. So 5 in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, give me a call if and when you need help closing a good candidate, or if you're just looking for someone to brainstorm with. As for my presentation, and as you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about your recruiters, your recruitment process, and how you can land the top players, if you will. So let's start here. Unemployment. I know you're not looking for unemployed candidates. It's very important, though, to know these numbers because it tells about market conditions and, more importantly, who has the power. When unemployment is high, the corporations have the power because they're the ones who have the jobs. And when unemployment is low, it's the candidates who have the power because they have options. And right now, in the current market that we're in, the candidates do have options. I'm not sure if anyone in here is familiar with the term full employment, but full employment is defined as the condition in which virtually all who are able and willing to work are employed, and that is considered, based on who you talk to, roughly 4%. So with that being understood, let's talk about where we are now in the marketplace. Over the last 12 months, the rolling average of new jobs created has been roughly 269,000 new jobs per month, and that's the highest that it's been since 1999, and the unemployment rate is sitting down at 5.5%, which is above what full employment is. So there are people out there who are looking, but even more astonishing is the unemployment rate for college graduates, which is at 2.5%, which I'm guessing is a little more relevant to the people on this call, because my guess is that even though you may not only hire college graduates, it's something that is a bit more than just, a nice to have, but something that you'd prefer. So if full employment is at 4% and the college grads that you want are only 2.5% unemployed, where do you find these people? They're all working and you're working. Where's the time in the day? Really all you need is the opportunity to sell people on the reasons for wanting to join your organization, but my guess is that you're just not getting enough looks. Like a great sales rep, you have no leads. So here's the question that you need to ask yourself. Whether your organization has an internal team or even if you use a third-party recruiter, is every member of your talent acquisition team someone that you could imagine on your inside sales team? Because as I mentioned in the title of the presentation, recruiting is inside sales. Recruiting is not a job of just sifting through resumes, inputting data into an applicant tracking system, and setting up interviews. That's part of it. Don't get me wrong, but it needs to be a game of prospecting, inputting leads or prospects into your CRM, and really running a sales cycle. If your talent acquisition team doesn't have the same skills as your sales reps, you need to find a new solution for your recruiting efforts. Last year, from an in-house perspective, as well as recruiting for our clients, my recruiters were able to generate over 125 hires of inside salespeople with a relatively small amount of inbound applicants that we would consider as strong as the passive candidates that we'd like. The question is, how were we able to make that many hires? The answer is because we didn't sit around hoping that someone would call us or apply. 73% of our hires were through outbound prospecting. We either cold called the people within our network, as you can see by the referral slice of that pie, and then the other was simply outbound prospecting. We cold called people on their cell phones or at their desks. My favorite question is, how did you get my phone number? We get asked all the time by passive candidates when we give them a call on their work phones. And my answer is simple, come on, the same way you get the phone number of a prospective VP of IT or a CMO, depending on who that person sells to. We prospect, we find people we think look good on paper or on LinkedIn, and we try to sell to them. We use a multi-touch drip campaign that is coordinated with our calls. We've invested into sales software like SalesLoft Prospector and InsideSales.com. We're not just resume graders, we're candidate finders, evaluators, and closers. Every recruiter that is on my team, or that has been put onto my team in the last year plus, was promoted from a lead gen role within our organization, and it's absolutely a promotion. They're going from being an SDR to running a full sales cycle, because that's what it is. But just like when they were in their SDR role, they're trained on how to find leads. And that's how you find passive candidates. Passive candidates are the ones who have their heads down, buried in excellence. They're not concerned with applying to jobs. They're worried about doing well at their current company and in their current role. While they're more difficult to attract, they're the ones that lots of times are going to make the biggest lasting impression and difference in your organization. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't work with active candidates. Both types are critical, just like inbound and outbound leads. Job postings and online applications are critical to supplement your recruiting efforts because you'll find a lot of gold in that. But think about it this way.
Hey, Justin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, could you quickly give your definition to the group here between active and passive?
Yeah, absolutely. So a passive candidate is someone that with the right nudging, and I'm going to get to looking for pain and, career goals that aren't being achieved, someone who isn't putting their information out there for any reason. They need a tap on the shoulder, if you will. An active candidate is someone who is either unhappy enough in their current role or is unemployed. It is sending out resumes to job postings, reaching out to recruiters, trying to actively find something new. A passive candidate is someone who, from the right recruiter, will be open to listening to what they have to say. And if the recruiter is good enough and provides the right solution, can actually get them to move. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks a lot. That definitely makes sense.
So another thing to think about, in regards to passive and active candidates, if active candidates are inbound leads and passive candidates are outbound leads, do the best organizations in the world only focus on inbound? No. You need to find someone who's going to go out and find candidates. Like I mentioned, Bob, just a second ago, set up a meeting, dissect, find pain, and provide a solution, which I'm going to get to in a moment, and then close based on opportunity. A lot of people say that recruiting and sales are cousins, and I'd like to think of them more as siblings. They require the same skills and the same attitude from your rep. So the question is, where are your recruiters going to find these candidates? And like I mentioned, you find them with their heads down, trying to hit their numbers, and you have to interrupt their daily pattern with phone calls and emails. This is a graph made by InsideSales.com. It states that your chance of getting in contact with a prospect goes up to 90% by the sixth call, and that's across all verticals. Recruiters, especially in inside sales, are calling people who are literally paid to answer their phone. So if we want to get in touch with these people, I don't know that there's a better way than through a phone call and not just a LinkedIn email to as many people as you can possibly send it to. So when you do come into contact with these passive candidates, it's great. You get someone who's really good on the phone. The next question is, how do you get them to actually leave and come work for you? Because a good salesperson is going to be running deals, hitting their numbers, and probably in those situations making good money. But just because someone is at the top of their company's leaderboard, it doesn't mean that they're happy. Just like when diagnosing a prospect in traditional sales, you have to look for pain. We find a reason that someone who had no idea that they were looking for something new would want to leave. And we do that by finding out if we can help them to achieve their career goals faster. So here's an example. We just recruited a guy out of a software company where he's been the top performer out of 10 people for the last 2.5 years. He went to the company in a lead gen role, grew into a full cycle hunter position, and eventually took over the territory as a full-fledged account executive managing his accounts. So 2 promotions in 2.5 years. And from the outside, you look at this guy's LinkedIn, immediately you would just assume happy as a clam. This guy is moving up in the company. He's being given more responsibility, not even worth the call. Well, we did call him, and that wasn't the case. He was miserable with the technology he was selling. His company had moved from selling a legacy software to just reselling anything that they could basically get their hands on. And even though this rep was doing well, more than anything in the world, he wanted to go to a company where he believed in the product. Long story short, he worked with one of the members on my team to get to a cybersecurity software company in a very similar role, but with a technology that he finds fascinating. We didn't help him hit the lottery. We didn't say, hey, here's a bunch more money, go move. We helped him to achieve his goals. And that's what the best salespeople do. When selling for SAP or Salesforce.com, the goal for any salesperson, or good salespeople, I guess, is to help their prospect solve their problems. And that's the exact same thing that your recruiter should be doing. Tracking down inside salespeople with phone calls and finding out what makes them tick. Again, who's going to get into more conversations? A sales rep whose territory is the Fortune 500 selling to only CIOs, or a recruiter calling inside salespeople? Inside salespeople answer the phone. It's a no-brainer that recruiters, especially in our industry, should be on the phone as much as possible, but it's almost never the case. Call reluctance is a real thing, and it's a culture change that needs to take place when those phone calls aren't being made. So here's what I would suggest. Evaluate your team. Look at each member of your talent acquisition team and determine whether or not you could sub them out today for a member of your inside sales team. If the answer is that your recruiters just wouldn't cut it on your top inside sales team, I'm happy to help you figure out what you can do instead. Shameless plug, maybe we can help. In all seriousness, I'll be at the Leadership Summit in Chicago next week. I'll take your calls whenever you'd like if you'd like to speak with me. But just to close, understand the top sales reps are not just going to fall into your lap. They're employed and focused on the job at hand, and they need someone to tap them on the shoulder so that your interview team, which a lot of times is your best sales rep or reps, can try to sell your opportunity to them face to face. But you have to get them into that cycle, and that starts with your recruiting team making recruiting calls. That's all I got for right now. I'm not sure how we're doing on time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's great. Hey, how about as people are gathering their thoughts, Jen, I think they *6 to unmute. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And there's a chat function up in the corner. It looks like a talking bubble. They can submit that way as well. Okay,
you can *6 and just interrupt and ask a question, or there's a chat little thing up there. But I'll start off with maybe a question for you, and that is, I'm sure we have on the phone. I'm sure we have a number of leaders that have gained some information here, but either leaders or frontline reps. I'm going to flip the coin on you here and ask you if you have any tips for those candidates who maybe they're doing okay in their jobs. So it's sort of like that last example. They're unhappy, but they feel kind of stuck because they're making good money, they're hitting their quota, but they really kind of would enjoy a change. Any tips for the candidate, the passive candidate, to kind of get noticed and so on?
A tip for the candidate or for the person trying to get the candidate to actually make that move?
A tip for the candidate. I guess you could do both. Why don't we do both? And you got both ends.
Okay, we'll start with the candidate, and when a candidate should look at moving isn't just around the money that they earn. And I know that's important to salespeople, but a lot of salespeople are very ambitious, and the money isn't going to be everything that drives them. The time to make a move is when you hit a roadblock in your career, and when the opportunities out there will help you to overcome that roadblock more quickly, even for a little bit less money, because if you're a good salesperson, you're never going to not leave money on the table. You always will have deals in the pipeline if you're doing your job. But what you need to determine is, if I were to go look at other things and I found the right opportunity for me at the same money or maybe even a little bit less, will I be able to advance in my career more quickly? If I want to be a field rep, and I know at my current organization that's going to take 4 years for me to get there, and that's really what I want to do, and I know at our number one competitor I could get to that in 2 years, it might be time for you to start at least putting some feelers out there, because you're never going to leave without leaving some deals and some money on the table, and it has to be what you want to achieve as a professional. Now, in terms of getting this person to leave, the most important thing is finding out that exact same thing, and that's what makes this person tick. Not just, okay, how much money do you want to make? What do you plan on doing on a day-to-day basis? And, what industry do you like working in? Where do you see yourself growing? What is important to you? What function do you want to play in a company? And how do you plan on getting there? You have to find out that information to be able to frame up your opportunity in a way that it's attractive enough for that person to say, you know what? I am going to leave my deals on the table because I can come here. Yeah, it'll take me 2 months to ramp, but the deals that I'm going to have in place and the career trajectory that I'm going to have is in 6 months will be greater than what I would have had at my current company in 6 months. So on both sides, it's figuring out what is important to these people as a professional. And I would say in most situations, even with the best sales reps, the answer is generally not just money. There are other things that make people tick, even salespeople.
Good points. Justin, we got a couple of text questions coming in, so let's see if we can move through both of these. First one, I'm finding myself having to take over recruitment entirely. I run our entire inside sales team, but at a very small company. Is that normal, as we only have one HR person who doesn't have the time or isn't prioritizing inside sales hiring?
So the answer is yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So many sales leaders are the best recruiters within their company, which leads directly back to recruiting is inside sales. The problem is that those sales leaders should not be spending their time doing that. They should be spending their time filling the pipeline with opportunities, not filling the HR manager's pipeline with candidates, and not giving their inside salespeople that are on their team the attention and love, if you will, that they deserve. And, at that point, when you're overseeing both of those things, it's like doing two jobs at 50% and you're just not getting enough done. And again, that's probably when you should either look at the HR person and find out, is this person a recruiter or an HR person? If they're just an HR person, well, then it's time to find a recruiter and someone who can, and generally speaking, it's going to be hard for people to sell a company as well as like a VP of inside sales because they're consummate pro. But there are people out there that will be able to find good people, at least to get in front of the VP of sales so that he or she can sell, rather than them actually doing everything from, cradle to grave, finding it, running it through the process, selling the person, closing the person. Meanwhile, someone has to be finding leads and closing deals.
Good. Couple quick ones here. A viewer asked about contacting you. It should be up on your screen, but I will, in case you're just listening. It's J Brown, JBROWN at memoryblue, all one word, .com. Two questions here. What's your feeling about prospects who have several job hops on their resume? This seems to be more prevalent with millennials. How do you deal with it?
That's tricky. You got to talk to the people, and you have to figure out, it goes back to, being a salesperson and evaluating and understanding the situation. There are very good people out there who have been in bad situations, and there are not so good people out there that are very good about talking about why their situations were bad. One thing I would recommend is using some kind of sales assessments, and if whoever said that question wants to talk to me about that, we use DISC here. I've talked to InsideSales.com about some of the stuff that they do as well. Those sales assessments can be a supplement and another data point other than just a resume. I would absolutely take that into consideration, and I would try and look at other data points to evaluate assessments, interviews and asking questions, reference checks, things like that. There are really good people out there who have had unfortunate situations that could make a lasting impression on your organization. They're just out there, please, somebody give me a chance. And so there are other things you can do other than just look, oh, this resume, this person job hopped, no thanks.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Can I interrupt with a question?
Oh, please do.
It's been great information. I think your suggestion about, calling people who are currently employed is really kind of genius and something that's not really done very much. But my question really has to do with many call centers or those kind of situations have recorded calls. And so, how do you deal with, geez, I don't want to talk to you. I don't even want to let you know that I'm even slightly interested if you call me at work, and discuss it. So how do you address that?
You got to be real smooth on the phone. We do a lot of talking. We're like, hey, look, this is my company. This is what I do. Listen, I know you're sitting at your desk right now, and your manager might be sitting 2 seats to the left. And if you respond to me, it could be bad news. So I'm going to let you respond. Feel free to be as discreet as possible. Also, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. And sometimes they'll say, no, it's all right. Can we connect after hours? I'm like, great. What's the best phone number to reach you? What's the best, email address? I'll send you a calendar invite. They give me their cell phone number and their Gmail, and then we connect offline. Sometimes people curse me out and say, no, thanks, no way, I'm not interested. And then boom, that email that I had them, using Pardot, that we had like some drip emails going out to them, they respond, hey, I was just kidding. I actually do want to talk to you. I was just putting on a show for my manager. When can you connect? You have to be very understanding of their situation. And if they say, I cannot talk to you, say, listen, that is completely fine. I'm not here to break up a happy home. I'm not here to get you in trouble. If things change, let me know. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. And if you want to reach out in the future, feel free. And thanks for taking the time. But yeah, you have to be very cognizant of the situation that they're in, because there are lots of very big inside sales call center chop shops where if they find out for a second that you even answer, you positively responded to a recruiter's phone call, you're gone. And so we have to be very delicate in the way that we talk to those people.
And that makes sense. And how are you finding the best way to get either their names or their email addresses from some of these places? I mean, who do you know who these salespeople are?
So we just use LinkedIn.
Okay.
My team doesn't even have LinkedIn Recruiter because I want them reaching out to as many people and making real connections as possible, as many real connections as possible, rather than just sending in-mails. We find a person, and if you find a person's name, you can find the company's phone number, and then you can call the directory and say, I want to talk to John Smith, and you'll get connected to John Smith. Now, there's other things out there. We have ZoomInfo, which is a database that has tons of direct phone lines and email addresses to everything ranging down to lead gen SDR reps and up to, field reps. And, we use like I mentioned, we use Salesloft Prospector. That pulls people straight out of LinkedIn and shoots them right into our Salesforce. And then we can plug them onto our marketing automation, throw them into InsideSales.com, and we're calling, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people that are the people we're looking for. Lots of people are going to tell us no thanks, but we're going to get into a lot of conversations.
Good, thank you.
Great, Justin, we're at the bottom of the hour here, or actually 10:30 Mountain Time, so we better move forward. There is one unanswered question. If you could answer that quickly, and then we'll call it a day. And the question is, do you have any recruiting call scripts you would be willing to share?
Absolutely. It's very straightforward. Hey, this is and I don't need to run everybody through through my recruiting call, but hey, my name is Justin Brown. This is what my company does. We work with venture-backed startups up to some of the industry giants here in the DC metro area. What I was hoping to do was talk to you for a few minutes, see if you'd be open to opportunities that could be stronger than your existing one. I know you're sitting at your desk right now, and if you can't talk right this second, totally understand. Run 4 calls a day, 4 hours, 2 during lunch, after hours, to be cognizant of your time. But yeah, that's how we do it. Some people say no, some people say yes, but I'm happy to send along some stuff that we use. Again, just reach out to me via email, call me, and we can connect. And I'm happy to help anybody. I know it's tough. It's tough to find good people, and it's tough for us, and we're professionally trained on it. So happy to help.
Well, that's great. We really appreciate you joining us today. Some very helpful tips out there. Again, it's our number 1 and 2 problem facing the profession of inside sales is finding talent. So we hear you. I look forward to seeing you at the summit. And for those of you on the call, just a reminder, the Leadership Summit is next week in Chicago. We still have some seats available. We're closing in on 700 attendees. It's going to be just an amazing event. So hopefully you can join us there. Thanks again, Justin. Thanks, Jen.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. And everyone have a great rest of the Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bob. See you there.
Everybody.
See you there.